Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us as we continue our study through the book of Daniel. We are in chapter 8 and picking up with the 10th verse right now. And there's just some interesting things. You can see on your screen, we're reading from the JPS, Jewish Bible, and it starts out in the English. It says it waxed great, talking about this beast and animal that we spoke about last week with the numerous horns coming out and how they fought together. And of course, the symbolism that exists there, we'll maybe get to see a little bit more of it as we continue to progress through this chapter. And it says it waxed great, grew great, even to the host of heaven. So it increased in size in some way that was just ginormous, gigantic to Daniel. And then in some of the host of the stars, it says it cast down to the ground and trampled upon them. Um, Through the years, we've read passages that talked about stars falling from the ground, and this isn't the only place where this is referenced. There's numerous places where the person, prophet who is receiving this vision, this imagery in a dream or whatever from God, talks about stars falling to the earth. And of course, as we understand stars today, we know that they are actually the size of our sun, if not larger, and there's so many, I will say, millions of light years away. Um, so we understand them differently, and it's trying to uh, struggle to try to put myself in the frame of mind of what they would have been thinking back then and what could they have seen. And so when I see this, I try to imagine that if I was in their day, I did not have any of the background of science and astronomy telling me how, all the planets and the stars and the solar systems. If we didn't have any of that knowledge, what would we think if we saw something and how would we describe it? And what I want to go to is a video, of course, the war that's going on over in Israel right now. They have the rockets that are flying and the dome that's protecting them. But as I watch these videos, this image of rockets falling to the ground comes to my mind. So let's watch a quick clip of it here. As I watch this and I see those videos, and you may have seen, your own videos too, of these rockets being blasted out of the sky and the, Iron Dome intercepting them and falling to the ground. Um, I can really relate that this could be something that if I was in that time frame, that's how I would describe it. If I didn't know what rockets were and missiles and so forth, I would say it looks like the stars are falling upon the ground, especially when it says here that um, this goat or ram trampled upon them. Um, it's like obviously they would have to be smaller than the earth. They would have to be in a realm that this um, animal could trample upon them. And could Daniel have been seeing these rockets fly and having a little bit of insight into what we now know warfare consists of in in Israel? And so I don't know, I relate to that. So I just wanted to share that with you. But anyway, this was happening, and these stars were falling. And of course, this beast here magnified itself even to the prince of the host. And from him, the continual burnt offering was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. This was really interesting to me because this is a clue that something is happening that has not happened for thousands of years, and that there are offerings being given being offered in a sanctuary. And I did a little research, looked up, obviously we know of the temple that's in the Bible, and there was the temple that was built by Solomon. And according to the dates that I was able to look up, Solomon's temple was destroyed in 587 BC or BCE. You may see it before the Common Era, as some would describe it. And the second temple, which was Ezra going back, was built around 516 BC. Remembering as you go from BC to AD, the numbers get smaller. So the time frame would have gone from 587 to 516 when the second temple was rebuilt. Now the question would be is when did Daniel live? When did he receive these prophecies? And again, it's very kind of a wide range, but the um, scholars would say that Daniel, the book of Daniel, he lived and it was written between 605 and 562 BC. So this is after Solomon's temple was destroyed, or before Solomon's temple was destroyed in 587. And so um, he's there at this time, but of course, all of Israel is in captivity. And so the temple has been abandoned. And even though it maybe hadn't been destroyed, it had been abandoned and it will be destroyed and it will be rebuilt around 516. So what is Daniel seeing? Is he seeing, um, that obviously the first temple has been not being used, so there were no sacrifices. Did he see the second temple being built and offering sacrifices? And of course, we know that that temple, which was Ezra's temple, was then kind of enhanced or remodeled by King Herod, and that happened around 1818 BC, so very close to the time before Jesus was born. The temple was remodeled and by King Herod. And Herod's temple, as we know it, was destroyed in 70 AD and by the Romans. So there were sacrifices occurring during this time up until 70 AD, but since 70 AD, there have been no sacrifices because there has been no temple. So, what is Daniel talking about in this vision? Where is this happening? It could be that it's would give a time to when Solomon's temple was destroyed. He could be also referencing the time when Herod's temple was destroyed. There were um, powers that be that were just terrible, strong powers. The Romans, the Persians, they all decimated the land of Israel. And of course, the Jewish sages will say that it was during that time that this was referencing. Um, when Christianity comes into play and we have the book of Revelation and we have an understanding of future events to come, um, we would lean towards that maybe this is talking about the third temple, the temple that has not yet been built. And this is prophecy about what will take place after the temple is built in Israel and the Antichrist comes. And this, how this plays into this image that he has, this and connection to the Antichrist and all of that. So there's a lot of different layers of ways we can look at this. And of course, depending on where you read and where you study, you'll find different people will talk about different ones. So I just want to point that out that this is the struggle we have as we're going through this, as what time frame is Daniel referencing? And of course, he doesn't know yet either. So those three things, we want to hang on to those thoughts as we progress further and see if we get some clues about what time frame Daniel may be making reference to, or is it all three time frames? Does it apply in some way? So we get to verse 12. It says, the burnt offerings, were cast down. Uh, we know there were offerings going on, but is it prospering as it said, or is it stopped? But then we get to verse 13. This is just very interesting. He says, I heard a holy one speaking. And so I want to go take a look at the Hebrew itself and look at what is this holy one, and why is this what do these words mean? And so as we scroll down to verse 13, um, Ve'eshma'ah, I heard, echad, which is the word for one, translated as a, but it means a singular person, and then kadosh, so it just speaks of holy. It doesn't even talk about a person. It just says one holy. So we some of the translators will assume it's a man. Some will assume later on you'll find they assume it was an angel. We really don't know. And Daniel doesn't describe it. He says he heard one. We know that it's one, and it was a holy one. Again, what constitutes a holy one? Anything angelic, in my mind, would constitute a holy one. Anything in a supernatural realm that appeared to be on God's side, would constitute a holy one. So this is just a very intriguing comment. We see that he makes reference to the one speaking. Now in English, it's just translated as speaking. The beauty of the Hebrew is there are numerous words to describe the fact of words coming forth. And there are Hebrew words that can tell you if this is common everyday speech or if this is special type speech, as in something that's very meaningful, because of the different Hebrew words involved. The Amar, meaning speech that's very common and not in depth, and the word Davar, which is Hebrew for words that can be thought of as coming from the heart. They're very special words. They have a lot of meaning. When someone speaks with Davar, it's like if you were on your deathbed and you're speaking to your loved ones and saying your last words, or if you're in a very emotional situation and you're expressing just the totality of emotion from your heart, they would say those are words that are called devar. Well, we see here that this word is a devar word. It's medaber, and it is also pointed with the vowels to indicate that it's an appeal form, which is one of the most intense forms that you can have behind it. It has a lot of emotion, a lot of meaning. And so that's where the beauty of the Hebrew leads us to know that as this Holy One is speaking, these are very intense words. How did that sound? I don't know what kind of emotion was behind them that Daniel heard this and immediately he used the word Devar rather than Amar. We can only guess, but there was something that overcame Daniel that said that these words that he was hearing were very, very special and he needed to pay attention to them. And the fact that it's repeated here is Echad Kadosh Medaber, a holy one speaking, and then you get down here, and now he uses the Amar words, the Vayomer, and so he's using that as a reference to repeat what he heard, because the same words, the Echad Kadosh, another holy one, it's translated as another holy one, but it could be the same person. It's only the translators thinking that there was maybe a second one there. And it's hard to deduce from the Hebrew. But again, these are the Devar words. They're words very intense, speaking from the heart. And so he's talking to Daniel, and who is this Holy One that's speaking? We really don't know. Let's see what the sages have to say. So they talk about um, the speaking, foretelling the calamity. They automatically assume this is an angel. And so as we scroll down, they talk about some things that are coming up. And as we look through it, um, there's concern as to how long will this transgression go on. Obviously, Daniel and the Holy One is looking at what's going on in the sanctuary, and they're seeing things taking place there that shouldn't be there. And again, it has some parallels to the book of Revelation. Talks about when the Antichrist comes, he will go into the temple and set himself up as God and take control of things. And that's going to be very appalling to the Jewish people at that time when they realize this happens. So there's some parallelism here to what's happening. And then there's a time frame in verse 14 of 2,300 evenings and mornings that this will go on. And of course, this is very interesting when we have days like this. Daniel's book is filled with days. And so 2,300 evenings and days are thought to be 3.5 years. Um, I'm sorry, 3.5 years would equal 1,150 days. Twice that would be 2,300 days, which would equate to about 7 years. Remember that they used a slightly different calendar, a lunar calendar, and so the days translate into years, calculate somewhat differently. So we trust the Jewish sages here that they understood their Hebrew calendar and talk about this as 7 years and 3.5 years. Now, those of us who have read the book of Revelation know that those two numbers of 3.5 and 7 are repeated quite frequently and significantly in the book of Revelation in the same type of text, talking about the temple and the sacrifices, the time frame that the Antichrist will be in power, the time frame that he will become exposed and that will exist afterwards, and tied into some of the tribulation periods, some of the wars that occur. So these 3.5 years and 7 years are matched and somewhat parallel in the book of Revelation. So that's very, very interesting for us. Um, and I think that's probably where we're going to stop today and just give some time to think about that. A lot of information. When we come back, well, next week is a holiday week, so we will not have class next week. But when we come back, we're going to look at a little bit more information that we learn on who this Holy One was. We find he has a name. And so come back next time and we'll take it a little bit deeper. So God bless you all. Have a wonderful long weekend and a holiday week. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye bye.